The smoke from the grill hit my face just as Margaret's voice cut through the laughter of 40 guests. "Well, Michael always did have a head for real estate," she said, loud enough for the neighbors to hear. "This house is proof of that. He bought it right before the wedding, you know. Such a smart investment." I was holding a platter of brisket I'd spent 14 hours smoking. My hands were covered in barbecue sauce, and my 3-year-old son Liam was tugging at my shorts, asking for another popsicle. The backyard in Austin was sweltering, 98 degrees, and I'd been on my feet since 5 that morning preparing for my father-in-law Robert's retirement party. I'd arranged the tables, hung the string lights, made the potato salad from scratch, and cleaned every inch of the house while Michael slept in. I'd done it all because I loved Robert. He was the only one in Michael's family who had ever treated me like I belonged. Now Margaret was rewriting history in front of everyone, and my husband was standing beside her, nodding along with a beer in his hand, letting the lie grow. "Mom, let's not." Michael started, but she cut him off with a wave of her hand. "I'm just saying, it takes a real man to provide for his family the way my son does." She looked at me then, a tight smile on her face. "Claire, you're so lucky he found you." I set the brisket down and wiped my hands on my apron. "Margaret, I bought this house. It was my grandmother's." The words came out before I could stop them. The party had been going on for 3 hours. I'd been biting my tongue for 3 years. And I was tired. Tired of her comments about my Army Reserve service being cute. Tired of her asking when I was going to have another baby so Liam could have a sibling. Tired of her inspecting my kitchen and making suggestions about how to organize my cabinets. The entire backyard went quiet. Someone's fork clattered against a plate. Michael's face went pale. Margaret laughed. It was a brittle, uncomfortable sound. "Claire, honey, I think you're confused. Michael told us all about the purchase. He closed on this house in June, right before your wedding." "Margaret, I inherited this house from my grandmother Eleanor when I was 23, I said, my voice steady despite the rage building in my chest. "I have the deed. I have the title. I have the tax records. This was my grandmother's home, and she left it to me." Michael stepped forward, his hand on my elbow, squeezing too tight. "Claire, let's talk inside." I pulled my arm away. "No, we're going to talk right now. In front of everyone. Because I was done. I was done being the grateful black woman who accepted crumbs from her white husband's family. I was done being told that my military service was a hobby. I was done with Margaret's passive-aggressive comments about my cooking, my parenting, my career, my everything. I looked at my husband, the man I had loved for 6 years, the man I had married because he made me feel seen. And for the first time, I realized that the man I married had been lying about who he was. "Michael," I said, and my voice broke on his name. "Tell your mother the truth." The silence stretched. Liam was crying now. My mother-in-law's sister Ashley was trying to comfort him. Robert looked between his son and me with confusion in his eyes. "Son, what is she talking about?" Robert asked. Michael's jaw tightened. He looked at his mother, at his father, at his sister, at the 40 guests who had stopped eating to watch our marriage disintegrate in real time. "Claire's grandmother left her the house," Michael said, and his voice was barely a whisper. "I didn't buy it." Margaret's face contorted. She looked like someone had slapped her. "What?" "I moved in after we got married," Michael continued, and I could see the shame rising in his cheeks. "I didn't tell you because you wanted to look like the successful son," I said. "Because your brother is a surgeon and you're a marketing director, and you couldn't stand your mother comparing you one more time." The truth was ugly, and it hung in the air like smoke. Margaret turned to me, her eyes blazing. "You're humiliating my son. On his father's retirement day." "I'm not humiliating anyone," I said. "I'm simply stating the facts. You've spent the last 3 years acting like I'm some charity case Michael took in. You've mocked my career. You've undermined me in front of my child. And I have let you. Because I loved your son, and I didn't want to cause problems." I looked at Michael then. "But I can't do it anymore." "Claire, we can talk about this later," Michael said, his voice desperate. "Please." "Not in front of everyone." "No," I said. "We're going to talk about it now." And then I told them everything. I told them how I had inherited my grandmother's house when I was 23. How I had sold a small plot of land my grandmother had left me and used the money to buy a pre-owned Porsche Cayenne. How both purchases were made before my marriage, with funds traceable to my inheritance. How my estate attorney had advised me to keep these assets separate, and how I had followed that advice to the letter. I told them how Michael had moved into my house, never correcting his mother's assumption that it was his. How he had built an entire image of himself with my possessions. I told them how he had promised his parents they could move into our guest suite without ever asking me. When I finished, the backyard was silent except for the sound of Liam crying. "Mommy," he whimpered, reaching for me. "Mommy, don't be mad." I scooped him up, holding him against my chest. "I'm not mad at you, baby. I'm not mad at you." Margaret was trembling. Robert was staring at the ground. Ashley was looking at her brother with something like pity. Michael reached for me, his hand on my shoulder. "Claire, let's go inside. Let's talk about this like adults." Like adults. I laughed, and it was an ugly, broken sound. "You've been lying to your family for 3 years. You promised your parents my house, without asking me. You stood there while your mother mocked me, and you said nothing." "Claire, Get your hands off me." The words came out cold and hard. Michael dropped his hand like I'd burned him. I looked at Margaret. "An apology isn't 'I'm sorry you feel that way.' An apology is naming what you did, acknowledging the harm, and committing to change. You've never done that. Not once." Then I looked at Michael. "I'm taking Liam inside to pack his bag. We're leaving tonight." He reached for me again. "Claire, don't do this. We can work this out." Work this out? I felt my voice rise, and I didn't care. "You let your mother tell me that my career is a hobby. You let her treat me like I'm beneath you. You let her raise our son with the idea that his father is the one who kept a roof over his head. You sat there at that table every Sunday and watched her chip away at me, and you said nothing. Absolutely nothing." "Claire, I'm sorry." "You're sorry?" I looked at him, truly looked at him, and for the first time I saw the man he really was. A man so desperate for his mother's approval that he would lie about his entire life. A man who would let his wife be humiliated to protect his fragile ego. "I don't want your apology," I said. "I want you to get out of my way." I carried Liam inside, and I didn't look back. The house was quiet. I could still hear the murmur of voices from the backyard, the clinking of glasses, the sound of my marriage falling apart. Liam was sitting on our bed, his small hands gripping his favorite stuffed elephant, watching me pack his overnight bag with wide, confused eyes. "Are we going on a trip, Mommy?" he asked. "Yes, baby. We're going to see Auntie Sarah." "Are we coming back?" I stopped packing. The question cut through me like a knife. I sat down on the bed and pulled him into my lap. "We'll figure that out," I said. "But right now, Mommy needs to get you somewhere safe." "Is Daddy coming?" I looked at my son. He had Michael's eyes, that same deep brown with the long lashes. But he had my stubbornness, my determination. I could already see it in the set of his jaw. "No, baby. Daddy is staying here tonight." "Why?" I didn't know how to explain to a 3-year-old that his father had been lying, that his grandmother had been cruel, that sometimes families break apart. I just held him and kissed the top of his head. Because sometimes grown-ups need to be alone to think. When I came back downstairs, the backyard was empty. The guests were gone. The tables were still covered in food, the string lights still twinkling. The brisket I'd spent 14 hours smoking was sitting on the grill, cold and forgotten. Michael was in the kitchen, his face pale, his eyes red. Margaret was gone. Robert was sitting at the kitchen table, looking like he'd aged 10 years. "Claire," Robert said, and his voice was heavy with shame. "I'm sorry. I didn't know." "It's not your fault," I said. "You believed what your son told you." "I should have." "You believed what you were told," I said. "That's not a sin. The sin is what he did with that belief." Michael stepped forward. "Claire, I made a mistake. I was stupid. I was scared of my mother. I know I should have told you. I know I should have corrected her. You just what?" I asked. "You just wanted to look good? You just wanted your mother to think you were a success?" Yes, he said, his voice breaking. I know it's pathetic. I know it's weak. But I was so tired of being compared to Brian. He's a surgeon. He bought his wife a house. He's the golden child. And I'm just the marketing director who married a soldier. A soldier, I repeated. That's what I am. Not a hobby. A soldier. I serve my country. I train. I deploy. I put my life on the line. And you've been letting your mother reduce that to a hobby because it made you feel better about yourself. You're right, he said. You're right about everything. Then why did you stand there and let her do it? I asked. Why didn't you say something? Why didn't you defend me? I was afraid, he admitted. I was afraid of her. I was afraid of what she would say. I was afraid of... Of what? I demanded. Of looking weak? Of looking like you weren't the provider? Michael, you're not the provider. You've never been the provider. This was my house. This is my car in the garage. I've been funding our joint savings account with my salary and my deployments. You've been taking credit for everything I've done. We're a team, he said weakly. No, we're not, I said. A team would have your back. A team would stand up for you. You've been sitting on the bench while I've been fighting alone. I grabbed Liam's bag. I'm going to my attorney's office. She already has a draft of a separation agreement. We'll talk tomorrow. Claire, please don't do this, Michael said. Let's fix this. Let's go to counseling. Let's. Tomorrow, I repeated. We'll talk tomorrow. Robert stood up. Let me walk you out. He followed me to the door. Michael didn't. He just stood in the kitchen, his face broken, his hands shaking. Claire, I'm sorry this happened, Robert said. I should have known. I should have seen. You believed what you were told, I said. That's what we do. We believe the people we love. I'll talk to Margaret, he said. I'll make her understand. You can try, I said. But she needs to understand on her own. Nothing I say will matter if she doesn't believe it. Robert nodded. I'll try anyway. I strapped Liam into his car seat and drove to Sarah's house. Sarah was my best friend from high school, my roommate during college, and now the most successful family law attorney in Austin. She was waiting for me on her porch, a glass of wine in one hand and her phone in the other. Tell me everything, she said. I told her everything. The whole story. The cookout. Margaret's comments. Michael's silence. The confession in the backyard. The 3 years of passive-aggressive insults. The way Margaret had treated me like I was beneath her. The money, Sarah said. You need to check the joint accounts. What money? The money Michael's been sending his parents, she said. I did a preliminary review while you were driving over. There's been $12,000 transferred from your joint savings to his parents over the last 16 months. I felt the room tilt. What? $12,000, she repeated. Almost $1,000 a month. He's been sending them money from your combined savings account without telling you. Michael doesn't have that kind of money, I said. He makes $60,000 a year. His bonuses are maybe $10,000. How did he? He didn't, Sarah said. You did. The money came from your salary and your deployments. You've been funding this whole marriage, Claire. The mortgage, the car, the savings account, everything. I sat down heavily. I knew it was mostly me, but I didn't realize. $12,000, Sarah said again. That's not pocket change. That's fraudulent. It's my money, I said, that I earned, that I put into our joint account, and he's been giving it to his parents. Looks like it, Sarah said. Incrementally. Small amounts. Never enough to trigger the bank's fraud detection. Just enough to keep his parents thinking he was a success. I felt like I was going to be sick. He told them it was from his bonuses. Of course he did, Sarah said. Because his mother had to believe he was a success. Because she had to think he was a provider. Because he couldn't let her see that his wife was the one paying for everything. He was living a fantasy, I said. He was living a fantasy, and I was funding it. Now you know, Sarah said. Now you can make a decision. I looked at her. I want to make a decision tonight. I don't want to wait. Sarah nodded. I'll call him in the morning. I'll tell him you're seeking a temporary separation. We'll freeze the joint accounts. We'll get a parenting schedule in place. And we'll talk about what happens next. What about the money he already sent his parents? You can negotiate that, she said. Either he pays you back from his salary, or you take it to court. But that's a civil matter. The bigger issue is that he's been living a lie, and he's been exploiting you to maintain it. I can't believe I didn't see it, I said. I can't believe I didn't see any of it. You loved him, Sarah said simply. When we love people, we choose to see what we want to see. The call with Michael came the next morning. I was sitting in Sarah's kitchen, drinking coffee, watching the sun rise over her suburban lawn, and trying to figure out how my life had fallen apart in 24 hours. When my phone buzzed with his name, I let it ring. I let it ring again. I let it ring a third time. Answer it, Sarah said. But put it on speaker. I did. Claire? Michael's voice was raw, panicked. Claire, what the hell? My lawyer just called me. You're talking to a lawyer? You're filing for a separation? I'm protecting myself, I said. Protecting yourself from what? From me? I'm your husband. We're supposed to be a team. You can't just. You sent your parents $12,000 from our joint savings account, I said. Without telling me. Without asking me. You told them it was from your bonuses. Claire, I can explain. Explain it to me, I said. Explain to me how you've been funneling my money to your parents. Explain to me how you've been lying about it. Explain to me how I'm supposed to trust someone who couldn't even be honest about where he lived. The silence stretched. Michael, I need you to hear me, I said. I am not going to be the woman who lives a lie. I am not going to be the woman who pretends. I am going to choose myself. I am going to protect my son. And I am going to make sure that the truth comes out. You think this is easy for me? Michael asked. You think I wanted to lie? My mother would have. I don't care what your mother would have done, I said. I care about what you did do. And what you did do is lie to everyone. Claire, give me a chance, he said. Please. I'll tell my parents the truth. I'll tell the whole family. You don't get it, I said. The truth isn't a bargaining chip. The truth isn't something you can use to get me back. The truth is something you owe everyone. I love you, he said. I love Liam. I don't want to lose you. You should have thought about that before you spent 3 years pretending to be someone you're not. The meeting at the counselor's office took place 3 days later. Sarah had insisted on it. She said the confrontation needed to happen in a neutral space, with a witness, to prevent Margaret from rewriting the narrative. Michael had agreed. He'd told his parents the truth, but they didn't believe him. They thought I had brainwashed him, or that the truth was something else, something I was hiding. Margaret had been calling my family, my friends, even my commanding officer at the Army Reserve, telling them I had stolen Michael's house. I needed to stop the lies. The counselor's office was beige and anonymous. There were 3 chairs arranged in a semicircle. Margaret sat in one, her arms crossed, her face like stone. Robert sat beside her, looking like he wanted the floor to swallow him. Michael was in the corner, his hands clasped together, his eyes fixed on the carpet. And I sat across from them, holding a manila folder. Margaret, I said, I'm going to show you something. I opened the folder and pulled out the deed to my grandmother's house. I pulled out the title to the Porsche. I pulled out 3 years of bank statements showing that I had been the primary contributor to our joint savings account. I slid them across the coffee table. Margaret looked at the deed first. I watched her face change as she read my name. Claire Elizabeth Hammond. Not Michael's name. Just mine. These are my assets, I said. They were my assets before I married Michael. They are my assets now. I have kept them separate, as advised by my estate attorney, because they came to me from my grandmother. Michael told us he bought the house, Margaret said, her voice shaking. Michael told you a lot of things, I said. He told you that he bought the house. He told you that the Kian was an anniversary gift. He told you that the money he sent you was from his bonuses. I looked at Michael. Tell her. Michael's face was white. He looked at his mother, then at his father, then back at me. Mom, I'm sorry, he said. I lied. I didn't buy the house. Claire inherited it. I moved in after the wedding. I didn't buy the car. It was Claire's before we got married. And the money I gave you, it came from our joint savings account. Claire funded that account. Margaret made a sound like she'd been punched. You used her money to send to us? I was trying to help, he said weakly. I was trying to show you I could take care of you. By lying to us about your wife. Margaret's voice rose. By pretending to be someone you're not? By protecting you from my shame, Michael said, and now his voice broke. I was ashamed. I was ashamed that I wasn't successful like Brian. I was ashamed that my wife was providing for me. I was ashamed that I couldn't give you the life you deserved. So, I lied. I lied to make you proud of me. To make me proud of you? Margaret repeated. You think I would be proud of a lie? Mom, I know it was wrong, Michael said. I'm telling you now. I'm telling you the truth. Margaret looked at the deed again. Then she looked at me. Claire, You don't have to apologize to me, I said. Not yet. But when you do, I need you to mean it. No, I'm sorry if. No, I'm sorry you feel that way. Just the truth. I didn't know, she said. I truly didn't know. You knew I was a soldier, I said. You knew I served my country. You knew I worked hard. And you still chose to believe that I was the one being supported. Margaret's face crumpled. I made mistakes. I'm not proud of myself. The first step is acknowledging them, I said. Not just to me. To everyone. To your family. To my family. To everyone you told I was a thief. It took 3 months for the truth to reach everyone. Michael sent a written confession to his relatives. He explained the house, the car, the money. He didn't sugarcoat it. He said he was sorry. He also signed a repayment plan for the $12,000. $200 a month from his salary until it was repaid. I knew I would never actually get all of it back, but I needed the principle of the thing. Margaret left me a voicemail at 3 a.m., 3 weeks after the meeting. Her voice was shaky, quiet, small. Claire, I'm calling because I was wrong, she said. I was wrong about you. I was wrong about Michael. I was wrong about everything. I can't undo what I did. I can't take back the things I said. But I can promise you, I will never talk about you like that again. And I am sorry. Truly sorry. Without any ifs attached to it. I didn't call her back. But I saved the voicemail. 3 months after the separation, Michael asked if we could start counseling together. I wasn't ready for him to move back home. But I was willing to try. We met with a counselor twice a week. We talked about everything. The lies. The expectations. The way we had both been failing each other. We were never a team, I said in one session. I was the one doing everything, and you were the one taking credit for it. You're right, Michael said. I was so focused on how I looked to my family that I didn't see how I was hurting you. And now? I asked. What are you focused on now? Now I'm focused on being real, he said. On being honest. On being accountable. I don't want to be the person I was. 6 months later, at Liam's birthday party, Michael's sister Ashley made a joke. So, Claire, are you going to ask for the house back? I mean, it's already yours, but maybe you can charge him rent. The room went quiet. Michael set his beer down. Ashley, I don't think that's funny, he said. Come on, I'm just teasing, Ashley said. It's just a house. It's not just a house, Michael said. It's Claire's house. It was never mine. And she didn't need to take it away from me. I was never entitled to it. His voice was firm. His jaw was set. I could see how much it cost him to say it in front of his family. But he said it. And when he looked at me, I saw something I hadn't seen in years. A man who was finally telling the truth. The post-nuptial agreement was signed 6 months after that. It protected my assets, required joint approval for gifts to relatives, and outlined transparent accounts. We agreed that nothing like what had happened would ever happen again. We started a trial reconciliation. Michael kept his apartment, but he came over for dinners and family days. We rebuilt our marriage from the ground up, brick by brick, truth by truth. 3 months later, he moved back in. He was a different man. Still flawed. Still working on himself. But honest. Accountable. Present. Thank you for giving me another chance, he said on the night he came home. I didn't give you a chance, I said. I gave you an opportunity to show me you'd changed. You've done that. How do you know? Because you told your sister the truth, I said. In front of everyone. Without me asking. That's just the truth, he said. That's all I have now. A year after the cookout, we gathered again in my backyard. The same string lights. The same tables. The same grill. The house and car were still mine. But that wasn't my victory. My victory was refusing to teach my son that keeping a family together requires accepting humiliation. My victory was walking away when I needed to and returning only when I wanted to. Michael's victory was learning that love does not permit hiding behind a lie. We were building a marriage based on truth, accountability, and consistent action, not avoidance. Margaret arrived that day carrying a blueberry pie, my favorite. She hugged me without hesitation and said, "Claire, I'm glad you're still here." "Me too," I said. And I meant it. The smoke from the grill rose into the summer sky. Liam was running through the grass, his grandfather Robert chasing him, laughing. Michael was flipping burgers, a genuine smile on his face. I sat in my grandmother's chair, the one that had been passed down from her mother, and watched my family, my house, my life, everything I had built, everything I had protected, everything I had earned. "Do you ever think about what happened?" Michael asked, sitting down beside me. "Every day," I said. "Do you ever regret it?" "No," I said. "I regret not standing up sooner. But I don't regret walking away. I don't regret coming back." What changed? I looked at my son. He was 3 years older now. Bigger. Smarter. More like me every day. "I changed," I said. "I stopped being afraid of being alone. And I stopped being afraid of being honest." Michael nodded. "I changed too." "I know," I said. We watched Liam fall in the grass and scramble back up, laughing. "Thank you," Michael said. "For what?" "For teaching me that love is built on truth," he said. "Not on lies. Not on pretending. On truth." I kissed his cheek. "That's what love is," I said. "That's all it ever was." The last piece of advice I ever gave him was this: "If you ever lie to me again, I'll make sure the whole world knows. Not out of spite, but because I will never, ever hide who I am again. Not for you. Not for anyone." He didn't lie again. That was the real victory. Not the house. Not the car. Not the money. The real victory was learning to tell the truth. And the real truth was this: I was never the one who needed saving. I was the one who saved myself. The house was never his. And it never will be.